Pigskin. Great sports fans talking hockey and football with a dash of everything else.
So let's go through some of the terms that people would come across in sports betting. I always hear the word parlay coming up. Explain to me what a parlay is.
I'll take this one. So a parlay is whenever you, because Travis and now parlays, I will tell you this: big value parlays, they can get you in a lot of trouble. And Travis will attest to that.
Yeah, they are not good to a certain extent, because if you're down and you're chasing money, because parlays are all about making more money, you can certainly lose your ass on parlays for sure.
Yeah. But basically what a parlay is you pick whatever it is. It's got to be two or more bets, and you couple them all together, and all of those bets have to hit for you to win. So let's say, for instance, I'm just looking at the primetime games for the NFL this week. If I wanted to bet on the Bucks, the Rams, and the Ravens to win, all money line, not spread, but because you can do money line, just basically them to win, you parlay all three of those together. If the Bucks, the Rams, and the Ravens all win, you win your bet. So that's basically what a parlay is. You're picking two or more bets all coupled together, and if all of them hit, you win. So that's why you get you can do crazy 6 to 7 or 8 game or 8 leg parlays where the more you add, the more the values go up.
Yeah, it's a huge multiplier essentially is what it is. So if you put two teams in it that are a decent favorite, it'll make it at almost like an even return or around an even return on your investment. But if you have a 6-team parlay where you have 6 different teams in there to win, you can put in, let's just say for $10 to win $50 or $60, something like that. So it's basically like a multiplier. But again, they're very tough to do and they're very tough to hit, and they can get you in a lot of trouble if you're trying to chase some bets that you just lost.
Yeah, so if I were to put $100 down on a 3-game parlay, now if I lose, I'm only losing my $100, right? I'm not losing anything extra besides the $100 that I'm placing, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm happy for them when they win. It doesn't necessarily ruin my day if they lose, but I will say I didn't think those first 2 losses were a big deal. I wasn't ruling them out. I just there was too much talent. Where I began to worry was when they dropped to 2-5 after falling to Hamilton.
Yeah.
That was a weird game because Kamar Jordan went out in the first half, and you really saw how important he was to this offense because Bo Levi Mitchell just was not good that game, and you could tell that he just didn't have the confidence, he didn't have that chemistry with the receivers, and that's where I began to really think they were in trouble. In part just because in a 14-game season you don't have much time to recover, right? So coming out of that loss, they just had no room for error. Or if they had room for error, they have 3 games against the Riders coming up. They could afford to lose one of them and still make the playoffs, but not get to second place. And that's ultimately what's happened. But they were a changed team. They had a bye week after that Ticats, and I honestly the hard thing to do with CFL is talk coaching because it's such a weird sport. But I honestly do think if Dickinson said this, is that they the coaches had some real long meetings trying to figure out what they were good at and how to really focus in on what they were good at and cut out some of the things that were hurting them. And I think that we've seen that. And again, it's not my job to tell fans what they think, but after so they beat the Riders twice, then they beat BC, and then they lost to the Riders, and I just couldn't believe the anger from some fans. Do you know how hard it is to beat? The Riders are not a bad team. Beating a team 3 times in 4 weeks, I mean, that's tough in football. That's that. Football is so much about adjustments. Football is, and the losing team always has the advantage because they're the ones who goes and fixes things where the winning team doesn't have to. So I didn't think that loss. That loss hurt them in terms of getting to second place. You want to see a home playoff game, but I think they're more than capable. So they've really since that low point, the turnaround has been pretty remarkable. And I think that I think their defense is as good as anyone in the league. And I think that we are seeing progress on offense. And I think that this Red Beggleton edition is going to do wonders. I think it's really going to make a big difference.
Yeah, taking those 2 out of 3 from the Riders. I mean, I was happy taking 2 out of 3. I honestly was not upset they lost the 3rd game because I was just happy they took the 2.
Exactly.
And a couple of those games earlier in the season were very close games. I mean, how often does Rennie Paredes miss a 50-yard field goal, right? I mean, there's one game there, and then Bo Levi throws just a bad interception at the end of that BC game, I think it was, and that's Those are two different results there, right?
I mean, the Lions game in week 2, that was the one where he had the fractured fibula, which again,
Right.
like is, I mean, you can't say that it's a fracture, but like, I do think people thought he like treated it as if he like snapped his bone. Like, no, there was a little crack. Like he was back. He didn't do the full 6 games, but like he had 4 interceptions. He was bad that game. The third Riders game, he had 3 interceptions. He was pretty bad that game, if I'm being honest. He's had a couple tough games, but it's just weird to me. Like I've honestly never really seen there are a lot of fans who just are waiting every time he makes a mistake just to jump on him. And like, this is a guy who, like, he's getting better as the season goes on too. He was out for a year and a half. Football players are creatures of habit. You know, he didn't have that routine. And he had surgery and then missed all of training camp because of a groin injury. Like, why was anyone expecting this guy to come in and look like the best player in the league right now? Like, it just was never going to happen. And if you, like, I'm going to sound like a jerk saying this, but like, if you understand anything about athletes, it's almost like they're often very boring people. They have to be up early. They have a routine. They work out hard. They eat the same thing. Losing that for a year for a guy in his 30s, like, was inevitably going to mean that Bo had a few growing pains this season. It honestly was. So it's like, if you know anything about athletes, like, it's understandable. And you can't actually look around this league. Tell me what quarterback's been great. Like,
no,
has been fine.
Like, Zach Claros.
Yeah, but like.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the Calgary Flames, who are going off right now. Like, what's going on?
I mean, it's hard for me to think that this is anything other than the Daryl Sutter effect, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like, he clearly has them working. So I was covering the team full time last season, and like, Sutter was pretty clear when he showed up. Like, day one, maybe he didn't take shots at Jeff Ward's preparations, but after that, he really, really did, constantly. And I honestly, like, the impression that Sutter gave us last year was that the team wasn't in shape, that they weren't in good enough shape, and they hadn't worked hard enough in training camp to be in that shape to play at the speed that they needed to play at. And now you're seeing it, with Sutter just putting them through the grinder. And I think that, like, you're also seeing the players seeing results, right? And suddenly they're starting to be like, oh, maybe this is why other teams don't hate Daryl Sutter, because he gets results. He gets you working, and I think you're seeing that confidence. I mean, I joked about it on Twitter. It was just so funny to me last night seeing everyone freak out about the Kachuk through the legs. And I was like, all right, it was a cool goal, but like, it would have been cooler if we hadn't seen him miss 12 times last year. Like, like, good lucky number 13, he finally landed it. But I also, like, I don't know why I felt the need to say that. Calgary fans.
Well,
but
on the flip side of that, everybody was going off about the McDavid goal the other night when he does this like once a week. Like, why is it so surprising now?
I know. It's that I actually did have that, like, obviously an amazing goal, but it was like people being like, oh, this is his best ever. I didn't understand that. I was like, he literally undresses entire teams. Like, it feels like every second game. So yeah, I mean, I'm glad.
Yeah. And also, upon second and third looks, Ottawa's defense did nothing to stop him.
Was that Ottawa or was that New York?
Or not Ottawa, sorry, New York.
Yeah, no, they're all left. But I mean, that's the scary thing about McDavid is you can be left flat-footed so quickly because he can go from 0 to 60 and he's on you. So like, yeah, that goal was spectacular, and so was Kachuk. And like, honestly, like, it was miserable covering that team last year. Like, no fans in the stands, and you're showing up and they're just losing, and they can't do anything. Like, it was not particularly fun. No one should feel sorry for them. I mean, my job is ridiculous, but like, so like, I'm happy for those guys, man. Like, I'm happy that they're finding a little bit of success.
Yeah.
The problem is, I mean, we're all so surprised by this because they were so bad last year, and like, people should be enjoying it. I will say, going into last year, we were all like, yeah, but can they win in the playoffs? And that's the thing, that like, this Flame group is just, they can do whatever they want in the regular season. I'm not judging until you get through the first round at least once.
Yeah, I think the reason why it's so good right now is because typically Octobers have not been well for us ever.
Yeah,
dating back quite a while. So having a hot October was good. It's good to see all of the big guys that Sutter brought in doing well, except for Zadorov. He's not obviously doing too hot,
great,
but
right? I mean, this is just two guys talking. This is not, like, as I said, I'm not covering the Flames until probably January. And I'm not paying that close attention. But like, so the Zadorov thing it's definitely surprising. It doesn't really make sense to me. But I don't know. You do, like, there is talent in this defensive group, right? Like, I think we know that. We know Noah Hannafin, and like, I think Hannafin took a huge step last year. I think you really saw him, but like, I'm surprised. I'm surprised that this group is playing as well as they were, because I thought they made a lot of small moves, but the big thing that happened was they lost Gio, and I thought they were worse coming into the season than they were coming out of last season as a group. And hey, I was wrong. Gotta admit it. So
yeah, I hate to say it because I like Gio, although I'll admit Gio is getting up there, and you know, it's nearing the end of his career, but I still liked him. But I haven't really been missing him.
I mean, isn't that the way it always is with these guys, though, right? Like, you know, I'm the biggest Raptors fan out there. I was devastated when Kawhi left.
Yeah.
Then I kind of like the way we played without him.
So being a big Toronto guy, are you a Jays fan as well?
Yeah. Again,
okay.
like, yeah. Okay, ask away. I'm gonna try.
So they missed the postseason by a single point, a single win, right? Mm-hmm. Any one of those games that they blew could have made the postseason. Is it worse missing by just that much, or would you rather not even be close?
Oh, it's way better to be close. It's like sports are silly. Like, sports give me like a couple weeks of entertainment, even if we fall short. Like, that's what I want. Is just like you become an adult and other things get in the way, and you don't feel that like childish passion for things. And then sports give you those. So I'd way rather be in the fight and lose than that's across the board in sports. Like, serve me up heartbreak over mediocrity. Like, yeah, I don't know. I got basically a month and a half where I was like constantly checking scores or watching, and I was in love with the Jays again. And that was awesome. I don't know. It's a bummer. I think we would have won the World Series if we'd won literally one game earlier in the season. But here we are. We're going to win a World Series in the next 3 years. It's going to happen.
Now, the big question, of course, going into the off season and coming up season is, are they going to be able to afford Simeon and Ray? Are they going to make that happen somehow?
After what they put the fans through with this rebuild, yeah, like when you've done the rebuild and you're a contender, you got to spend the money. That's the deal for ownership. And the other thing is, like, we saw this in 2015 and 2016. Like, fans, like Jays fans across the country, not just Toronto people, were always like, if you spend and give us a contender, you have the biggest home market of any team in Major League Baseball. Like, you'll get that money back that you spend because this whole country cheers for the Jays. It's like, and we saw that with the Raptors. Like, yeah, there's no excuse. Go pay them. It's like it's time for Rodgers to go spend big, and like you're not going to outspend the Dodgers. You know, like that's not going to happen. But you got to pay to keep your best players, and you got to pay to have a contender because you can't do 4 years of losing, saying this is the way to become a contender, and then not do it. That's not.
Now, I'm not a huge baseball fan. Does MLB have a hard salary cap just like the NHL, or
no?
Okay.
No, I don't. Honestly, like I don't exactly know how it works, but it's 100% not a hard salary cap.
So if you want to buy a team, you can buy a team.
Oh, the LA Dodgers have bought a team, 100%. And like I think athletes should get paid. Like I honestly I'm never rooting for the owner to have more money in his pocket. The owners are already billionaires. I don't need them. But like the way that baseball, like the money is insane right now, and basically like it's basically just the Dodgers. Like no one else can afford Mookie Betts' salary with the Dodgers thing. So like it's not great, but it's still, I don't know. Jays have so many big bats, we can beat anybody.
How are you doing, sir?
How's it going, Reed?
It's good. If you ask me, you know, a little heartbroken with the Kraken season start here. I know you talk hockey on here as well. We're talking football, but it's been a rough here. First 4 games was in Vegas last week for our season opener, so it's been tough.
I watched that game. It wasn't a bad game. I mean, Vegas is hard to play, right? Vegas is hard to play.
We have 3 goals in 4 games. We've given up 2 shorthanded goals. You know, what I thought was the biggest sticking point coming into the season was our goaltenders are actually playing superb right now. We just can't get any pucks in the net. So. Yeah,
no doubt. And how about that Jordan Eberle scrap last night? Hey, did you see that?
It was hot. No, we were there. We were there last night because we have Red Lions. We were there for the home opener here. We have beef with the Avalanche because of Makar and him hitting McCann last year in the playoffs. You know, he ended up missing a good portion of our run. But I think they said that Eberle had trained with him or gotten up with him. But I don't think it was necessarily related to that because we were booing Makar there anytime he had the puck. So.
Yeah, I saw that. That was pretty hilarious. I can't say much else about my Flames right now. They're kind of stinking. They started out really well, won the first game, and then it's been downhill ever since. But hopefully they'll turn it around. I have really high hopes for them this year. Now that the big problem was Sutter, right? Now he's gone, so no excuses this year.
Well, it was funny. We did, we obviously had a deep run in the playoffs last year. Making it to Game 7 of Round 2, and my buddies are all. Because we were going out to every game and we were watching the games and we were going to the bars and they're like, well, I don't know if we can do this again next year. I'm like, you need to enjoy it while you can because God forbid here, we're certainly not looking like a playoff team this year. So I said, that's why you got to kind of live it up when you can because it's been rough. So.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm going to transition to some football talk now because as most people who watch your podcast is 99% football, would you say?
Yeah, it's pretty. We used to talk a little wrestling to fill the space when we were
That's
waiting
right.
for
That's
news.
right.
But, yeah, pretty. And right now we got CFL in full swing, heading to the playoffs, and then obviously the UFL, NSFL, whatever you want to call it, merger with the XFL and the USFL. So lots of things in the alternate football world right now.
Yeah. So like starting in the CFL, how impressed were you with the BC Lions this year?
The joy I have of doing the podcast is I can do the podcast and still be a fan, right? So we have a lot of reporters come on, and it's a fine balance when you're covering a team to take the emotion out of it, right? And they need to cover it objectively, and you can't do all that. I can view BC as a fan. I ride their successes, very high, and I threaten to throw my hats in the garbage can when they're not. It's been a tough year because I do not think we've showed up in the way that we needed to prove that we're a Grey Cup contender. I think this is the window that we're in right now. Maybe next year, right, with Vancouver hosting the Grey Cup. Obviously, this year it's in Hamilton, but I was there for the Winnipeg at BC game 2 Fridays ago. Dominique Rhymes, I'm sorry, but not going down and stopping the clock there for us to get a field goal at the end of the game could have cost us the season. Now we got to go into Winnipeg, presuming we win the semifinal. I mean, not wanting to, take anything for granted, but Saskatchewan or Calgary, either one of them could basically lose their way into that third spot. But no, I've been disappointed because I had a lot higher expectations, especially seeing how Vernon performed this year. Vernon Adams, our quarterback.
Yeah, he's had a really great season, and I've been really impressed with the BC Lions this season. I thought once Nathan Rourke exited the scene that things were going to go downhill, and then they, Adams has just been amazing this year.
I never thought it was the same. Just we were talking Kraken, and that was always our Achilles heel, was our goaltending all of last year. And I mean, I know it's a small sample size here, but yeah, Vernon coming into the year, that was where all my question marks were, right? Because Vernon rides really hot, and if Vernon is doing well, if we're playing good, defense is in check, like he can calmly kind of do things. But if games can spiral very quickly for him, and I get that, right? It's an emotional game, and you're out there, and he had really one bad game this year. He threw 6 interceptions against Toronto, who is a stout, stellar defense and defending Grey Cup champions. But save for that game, he's really protected the ball well, thrown for high 300s multiple times. I think he hit 400 here, but that's the kind of high octane offense that BC needs to do. But Winnipeg can run the ball, and we can't. We haven't been able to. We got rid of James Butler in the offseason, and Mizell has never been able to fill that gap. But I think here, going into Winnipeg to have to play a playoff game, to me, is if we can't run the ball, I don't see us coming out of that doing well.
Yeah. You touched on the Stamps and the Riders basically having their fate in their own hands, and one of them could lose out, one of them could win out. I think with the way they've been going this season, it's going to be whoever loses the worst or whoever loses the best is going to make it out, however you want to say it. What do you think has gone wrong with the Rough Riders this season? Because they're just on a horrible streak.
Well, yeah, so I just got done recording. Jamie Nye, who does the Green Zone up there, he's going to be on the show for our Friday episode. Basically, if Calgary and Saskatchewan could both lose their next, 3, Saskatchewan has 2, I believe Calgary has 1, they could lose their way into the playoffs. And he thinks if for whatever chance they don't, and even if they do, wholesale changes going to be happening there. Obviously, the whole Trevor Harris issue of him getting injured, that's part of it, but we've seen Hamilton here deal with losing 2 quarterbacks during their season. I mean, obviously Ottawa had mixed results and it ended up being disappointing, but, Dustin Crum was certainly a viable kind of option there to at least get through. But wholesale changes, I think, in Saskatchewan, he said, people are threatening to return their season tickets. And, it's if you would have told me right now that, the Edmonton Elks would be a more popular franchise with everything that they had going on midway through the season, I would be very surprised. But it doesn't seem like Calgary or Saskatchewan, things are not well in either of those markets.
Yeah, Calgary, I after last season when Bo left, and Jake Maier didn't look too terrible, and I had high hopes for him this season, but yeah, Maier, he's kind of hot and cold, and it's been mostly cold, unfortunately, and they're not in a good place right now, and I really think that Maier is not the answer there, and that they may need to go after a big quarterback. So I hope they can hopefully can do something in that quarterback position. Mind you, I do see a lot of drop balls in games as well. So I mean, it's all around. Everybody's got to take responsibility.
Well, it's got to be so disappointing for them because they really thought they had their answer. And we had Maier on preseason last year, and I said, hey, I want to get on your wagon right now because I saw big things. And he was, you had Bo Levi there forever, and he was that's the next anointed prince here standing by. And yeah, I don't know if it's scheming, if it's the receivers not helping him out, if it's him, if the moment's too big now that Bo's not there and I don't have my safety blanket. I remember this, and now this is distant memories, but Tua is, killing it right for the Dolphins right now and everything else. But there was always that when Fitzpatrick didn't stay on with the team, it's like, is Tua still going to be Tua if he doesn't have a safety blanket there? Well, I think Tua has proved just fine here, but
yeah, Calgary. After last season when Bo left and Jake Maier didn't look too terrible, and I had high hopes for him this season. But yeah, Maier, he's kind of hot and cold, and it's been mostly cold, unfortunately. And they're not in a good place right now. And I really think that Maier is not the answer there, and that they may need to go after a big quarterback. So I hope they can hope they can do something in that quarterback position. Mind you, I do see a lot of drop balls in games as well. So I mean, it's all around. Everybody's got to take responsibility.
Well, it's got to be so disappointing for them because they really thought they had their answer. And we had Maier on preseason last year, and I said, hey, I want to get on your wagon right now because I saw big things. And he was, you had Bo Levi there forever, and he was, that's the next anointed prince here standing by. And yeah, I don't know if it's scheming, if it's the receivers not helping him out, if it's him, if the moment's too big now that Bo's not there and I don't have my safety blanket. I remember this, and now this is distant memories, but Tua is, killing it right for the Dolphins right now and everything else. But there was always that when Fitzpatrick didn't stay on with the team, it's like, is Tua still going to be Tua if he doesn't have a safety blanket there? Well, I think Tua has proved just fine here, but I don't know, something's gone wrong. And Maier, I like him, and he certainly takes accountability, which I like, but something's not working out there.
Yeah, and looks like Bo's not really having the exact season that he probably wanted either. Injury trouble, of course, is most of the issue there, but he's looked a little shaky since coming back. He hasn't been back for very many reps. I think he played only a half last week, and I mean, he didn't look great. He didn't look like Bo Levi Mitchell of 2-3 years ago. But what are your thoughts on Bo?
He's old, man. Like Bo, even when Bo, what was the stat? He had thrown however many picks even in the game before he got hurt back. And, they've kind of Frankenstein Hamilton, that is kind of Frankenstein this offense here to get, now they're third, they're one game away. You got to play Montreal. You never know. Cody's kind of the same way as Vernon, gets a little, wants to will his team, and maybe he'll throw a ball or two that he's not supposed to. But yeah, I mean, Bo's been fine. I was listening to that game when he came on, and the first pass was almost an interception, and then he kind of settled down a little bit. But it seems like they're going to do kind of a dual quarterback system here getting into the playoffs. Because I don't think you can disregard Taylor Powell kind of for the work that he's done getting you guys to this point, and obviously with Matthew Shields as well being injured there off and on too.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned the Elks and what they've done in the last season, or maybe what they haven't done. What they have done is, in my opinion, Victor Cui's done a great job of bringing some interesting marketing to the game and some in-game experiences there at Commonwealth Stadium. But the Elks still struggling until Chris Jones starts Trey Ford, and then all of a sudden, bingo! That's the magic touch. What are your thoughts on Jones not starting Trey Ford a little earlier? Did he see something in Trey Ford that he didn't like perhaps earlier in the season, or what are your thoughts?
Well, it's weird to me that it was, Victor gets, a mutual departure,
Yeah.
I mean, you can take that either way if it was, how mutual that departure was. But, obviously he leaves, Trey Ford goes in. I've heard all sorts of rumors that, Victor Cui wanted Trey Ford and Chris Jones didn't. But I mean, Chris Jones was the one that drafted Trey Ford and specifically went out and got, they traded up to be able to get him. Like, it's coaching malpractice. It took this line to bring Trey Ford into the game, especially because he played with success last season before he got injured, and then played with success in the preseason this season before kind of everything was going on. So I don't really understand that. He was a similar guy I wanted to get on the show and kind of hitch my wagon to, because, like here we went through the whole Nathan Rourke of it all. Like here you have another stellar Canadian quarterback, and maybe he's not lighting up exactly. Nathan was kind of the phoenix flying here to the sun as hot as you could. But here you have a young guy you can build around. Wants to be in the CFL, and yeah, I think there was some sort of personality issue there. Jones wanted him to play more of that wide receiver role, maybe short yardage, and Trey didn't want that. And I think he had turned down to try out in the States. I think it was with the Bills season before last, where they had wanted him in that role too. And so it's good to see him now. And I mean, they certainly saved their season, but if you had played him at the beginning of the year, or even 4 or 5 weeks in, you'd probably be in the playoffs.
Yeah. So do you see Chris Jones sticking around long in Edmonton, or you think they're going to try and get him out of town as soon as possible?
I think he looks like a coach of the year right now. I mean,
yeah.
Right? It's such a how you do lately. And I'll tell you, even not to keep going back to the Kraken, but we were very down on Dave Haskell season 1, comes back, gets the Kraken together last season. And, he was a nominee for coach of the year, comes out last night, standing ovation. Well, I mean, depending on how the season goes here, it's a very much what have you done lately. But I think for missing the playoffs, I think Edmonton has the most juice right now for missing the playoffs of any of these teams. I mean, certainly not Saskatchewan or Calgary.
Yeah, that's definitely the way it's looking right now. So the big question for you, will the Winnipeg Blue Bombers make their third appearance in 4 years and win a third Grey Cup, or do you think they're going to run out of juice and probably lose to Toronto?
I would put any money in the world on Toronto right now. This is no disrespect to Winnipeg. We've had lots of smart guests on the show talking. They're just aging out. Their defense is aging out. I mean, they're at the end. Their window's not closed, but they're certainly on that end part of it. Chad Kelly's played phenomenally. Their defense, like I said, 6 interceptions against the Lions alone. Basically clinched home, East Division, everything with like 6 weeks to go in the season. I mean, just totally unheard of. I think whether they 14-2, just remarkable. And I'm excited to see them. I would like to see someone else in the West, but I mean, I don't even see BC, performing well against them. But it would be nice to see not Winnipeg. All I know is Winnipeg in the Grey Cup since that we started doing any of this stuff.
Yeah, right. Hussey's Huddle is tuning in, and he says, you can't convince me that the Elks wouldn't have won those first 2 Sask games with Ford instead of Corn Dog.
I'll never get the Cornelius thing. Supposedly they were worried about him going back to the XFL, and that's why they locked him up midseason like they did last year, because it was such a weird timing too, where it wasn't like he was winning tremendously well and then comes out, loses at home again the week that they signed him to the contract through a red zone interception. I'll never understand that fear of losing him, feeling like they had to sign all these high priced receivers around him, and then he's not a winner. I mean, he's not a winner in the CFL. He's a nice guy, but here you have someone in Trey Ford now that, obviously has proven to be a locker room leader in the way that the guys rally around him. I mean, there's something to be said for that. I mean, we track Taylor Heineke all through Washington with the football team and the Commanders. Like, there's some guys people just want to play for and you want to rally around. There's nothing against Cornelius, but you got, you see Trey sitting there and you finally get a shot and he comes in and sets the world on fire. It's cool to see.
That's great. That's great. And so, of course, I've been seeing you most recently, as everyone else has, doing reaction videos to CFL games. How long have you been a CFL fan?
Well, I ain't going to sit here and BS and act like I've been some lifelong CFL fan. I've been aware of the CFL for most of my life, but it's been about a year, 2 years that I finally have been like just dove right all on in. And it's about 2 years, man, about 2 years, like deep into it.
And for those that haven't watched you, of course, are a big Saskatchewan Roughrider fan still through all the drama and trials and tribulations. How hard has that been watching the last half of this season so far?
I would say being a Seahawks fan has prepared me for moments like this. So it's crazy because when I came into watching the CFL and reacting to it, I caught the 2021 West Final. And I'm thinking, okay, I dig everything about Saskatchewan, love the colors, love the players, blah, blah, blah. And then going into last season, they were on a roll. They were like, all right, we're going to rebound. We're going to get to the Grey Cup, right? And doggone it, that 6-7 game losing streak after beating BC in BC. And I was like, we can't catch a damn break.
Yeah, that is crazy, having back-to-back 6-game losing streaks last season, and now they're on 6 games this season so far. Who's their next opponent up? I think it's Toronto this week, isn't it?
We have Toronto. Oh my God, we have Toronto on Saturday. Like, out of all the teams to face that last home game of the regular season, it's the reigning and defending Grey Cup champions. Now, whether they play all their starters or not, it's up in the air. I haven't really heard anything or seen anything on the feeds about Chad's gonna sit, AJ's not gonna play. We got to do our job. I don't give a damn. They could bring out Flutie. They could bring out everybody. We got to do our damn job.
Yeah, that's for certain. Where have you seen now? All joking aside, and all extreme reactions aside, what's gone on wrong for the Riders this season?
All jokes aside, I think it's there are times when teams, they need a new voice. I mean, you can only have the same message for so long till it becomes nauseating. I think after the Cody situation, I think it really opened some eyes to people like, whoa, nobody's meant to be here forever. And I think I don't have any ill will towards Craig at all. I really don't. I just think that week after week after week of losing, you can only say we're going back to the basics. We gotta work hard and we gotta that Hulk Hogan stuff. It only goes for so long, man. Nobody wants to hear that after a while. And when it gets into your locker room, guys get tired of hearing like, okay, when is it going to change? We've done the work. We're putting the time in. We're doing what you said to do, and there's no results. And I also hold a lot of the the responsibility and I hold the staff accountable. Just because I mentioned on the channel in one of the videos, our offense is very predictable. It's very, very predictable. Everybody knows we're going to be a screen here. There's going to be a tunnel screen here. There's going to be a bubble screen here. We're going to try. We early, like mid-season, we were stretching the field. We were up the hashes. We were up the numbers. We were exploiting people. We were using Samuel Emilus. We were using Tevin. We were using Sean. We were using our weapons. And we didn't have KSB back yet. So it was like, dang, we got something here. We got a nice trio here. And adding KSB when he come back and Jamal, man, we're going to do something. Something has happened after LDC where our offense has just stalled. And we're struggling. So it's so many variables right now, man. It's tough to even say one thing. But if I could pinpoint one thing, I think it's got to be Craig. It's got to be, you're the head coach. We hear everything. I've heard every post-game interview, and it's the same message. Well, what are you going to change, Craig? What are you going to do? Same results.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, and I think I have to agree with you. It's got to be it's got to start at the coach, maybe even a little higher up. What's your thoughts on the GM situation and management?
I think it's really tough to say, but when it comes to everybody want to call for the GM's head. They want to call for the president's head too as well. But at the end of the day, like, we got to spend money to win games. We have the money. We got to go get some pieces. We got to do something. I'm not saying we overhaul everything. I think there's pieces like on the line, and also we got to shore up the trenches. We got to shore up that D line and that O line. We're moving guys around just to get by. We can only get by for so long, so we got to go in the pocket. But I saw Hamilton make moves. I saw Montreal make moves. I saw them go get Sean Lemon, and that changed everything for their defense. They went and got Darnell. They did things.
Hockey aficionado, Oilers aficionado, Mike Dursa, welcome to the show, buddy.
Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure to have you. I love talking Oilers. Not an Oilers fan, obviously, but my wife is an Oilers fan, so I watch almost every game. So I feel like I can talk Oilers a little bit. We don't get into contracts and all that kind of stuff because I don't pay attention to numbers. I just like watching and talking.
Yeah, that makes for interesting pillow talk, I'm sure.
No, it's funny because we go out on game days and I wear the Flames gear, she wears the Oilers gear, and we get a ton of comments. It's definitely the number one topic, no matter where we go.
My fiance is a Bruins fan, but it didn't take her long to adopt a Western Conference team, and luckily she didn't choose Calgary, and she came from Calgary, so.
So did she choose the Oilers?
She did.
I have a feeling that she was probably pressured into that choice.
Yeah, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl worked their magic on her.
Yeah, and talking about Connor McDavid flying down the ice, how about that goal last night? I don't even have to describe it. You already know what I'm talking about. It's just...
Yeah, I mean, the presence of mind to get up and not go back to your own end thinking that the puck was going that way. I mean, I don't know if it's luck, good management, or just, he's in tune with the hockey god himself or what it is. But yeah, it's just an unbelievable goal. Just ridiculous.
Is there a slight possibility that he actually, while he was being tripped up, played that puck through the defender's legs and knew where it was?
Don't think so. No. And you know what? Other people are hot wanting a penalty call on that play too, thinking that he was dumped and maybe, but some players, if that's the case, they would sell it and want the call. He just got up and took off and didn't even think. So the presence of mind there to, be that engaged and not let anything bother you. Yeah, crazy.
Some stranger has commented and said that was luck. Simple as that. I would probably agree. Definitely luck. Although with a player like Connor McDavid, you never know.
Yeah, lucky that the puck's maybe in front of him, but I mean,
yeah.
To do what you did and to get up and just annihilate, Saros didn't have a chance. He was beat. Man, I think he was just marveling that he got the puck in the first place like the rest of us and just dumbfounded, deer in the headlights. And that was the end of his night. Maybe he just wanted out of the net because he was getting overwhelmed, but
yeah, no doubt. Where do you think that goal ranks on your list of Connor McDavid goals?
Yeah, they were putting that ahead at all. Like Jack Michaels was trying to say that was better than the goal against the Rangers.
Against the Rangers, yeah.
I can't go there. I think to walk through a whole team is still more impressive than that one. I mean, it's a fabulous goal and maybe a goal of the year, but when you're Connor McDavid, that's not the goal of your career. No.
Yeah, no, I'd have to agree. The one against the Rangers was pretty spectacular, and even the one against the Leafs, where you turned
Morgan Riley.
You turned Morgan Riley inside out. Yeah, that was.
Yeah,
those are definitely probably 1 and 2.
it probably makes top 5, but yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I would say.
What are your thoughts so far on the Connor Bedard era? What are your thoughts on seeing Connor Bedard so far? If you've seen much of him, I don't know if you've been paying attention.
Yep, there's amazing
Hard
skill.
not to.
yeah. They're pushing him pretty hard, and I think Taylor Hall was like saying that he wished they would back off a little bit and just let him breathe a little. But
Yeah.
He's not Connor McDavid, but there's a high skill level there. I think if I have a criticism, I think it's trying to do a little too much, too cute. And I think he'll learn that in the NHL you don't have the same time that you do in junior to do some of that kind of stuff. So I think once he figures out to simplify a little bit, he'll start to torch people, because he is hard to, he's shifty and crafty, and he's going to be a good NHLer. I don't have much question there. He doesn't have the same size that McDavid has, so durability might be a little bit of a question. But I guess he works really hard in the weight room, so eventually that's going to, pay dividends for him, I think. And yeah, as long as he can stay healthy, I think he'll have a great NHL career for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen him play a little bit. I think there's definitely some jitters, some nervousness, maybe some jitters there. But I think once he realizes, like you said, that you can't be cute in the NHL, or you're probably going to get hammered, or if anyone can catch him. But yeah, definitely agree with you there on Bedard. So tailgating, huge part of the Elks game day experience. Mentioned that you'd be people might recognize you from tailgates before the game. Give somebody who's never seen or been to a game, let alone to a tailgate party, an idea what goes on, how it all works, all that kind of stuff. Give us the tailgate experience in words, if you can.
Yeah, well, I mean, when it comes to the Edmonton Elks tailgate, everybody is there at least 2 hours before the game starts. Sometimes it's even 3 hours. Sometimes it's even more, depending on the day. Saturday games, you have people there early, bright and early, starting to get all set up.
Yeah, and for NFL fans, especially, if you've been down there, even into a college environment down in the States, you walk in around that stadium, and, sometimes in the States, they start at 6 a.m., 8 a.m., wee hours in the morning. They start their cooking at the stadium. Here in Canada, we haven't gotten to hit that point up until the last 5 to 7 years. So, now on game days, you have college kids, you have, fans of every team walking up. You see the tents, you smell the barbecues, you see the red Solo Cubs, and everybody is going hard in that tailgate, having a blast, playing cornhole. You have sweet sponsors coming out. Even the RCMP had a tent out there this year.
We had a band this year.
Yeah, we have a stage with a little mini concert and everything. We do that right in Lot A on the west side of Commonwealth Stadium. And I know that you guys have a pretty awesome tailgate down there in Calgary as well. However, let's say with BMO Field, when we were just out there, they had a very small tailgate, and then they also had a section that they called tailgate, but it was more of like a fan fest, kind of like the Coors Light fan fest that they used to have at Commonwealth Stadium, or you guys might have one as well, but an area to go before the game. But it's not true tailgating, and they're still purchasing beverages and everything else. No, tailgating is right out the back of your vehicle, as you know, Jason.
Yeah, man, you got my mouth watering as soon as you said the word barbecue, man. We did attend the home opener the Elks had there against the Riders, and we tried to make it in time for the tailgating, but we didn't quite make it. The traffic was crazy, and by the time we found somewhere to park and walk to the stadium, it was almost game time. So unfortunately, we missed the tailgating, but it sounds like a hell of a time. And you guys definitely know how to do it. That's for sure. I've seen photos on social media. I've seen videos, and you guys definitely know how to do it. That's for sure.
It's always a big party, and we definitely encourage everybody that comes by to just come say hi. Between, of course, Arsenal and the Turf District podcast, we have Spirit of Edmonton, we have K97, and everybody's just more than welcoming to everybody else that just shows up to chat for a drink, some bite to eat, anything.
Well, and I mean, even talking about the Turf District, they put out a whole menu this year for their tailgate, because our goal is to just go ahead and feed as many people as possible. So on our end of things,
not a requirement though.
Not a requirement as fans, right? We try to do the fan sided thing, and to try to feed a bunch of fans and do it in kind of like sample sizes. Make sure you go check out a bunch of other tailgating stalls if they're supplying food. But this year we even had a tailgate chili cook-off where we got around 20 to 25 fellow stalls on board. We got sponsors, and we made it a really, really big event. And I think that's probably one of the bigger tailgates that we've ever seen. And you broke it down, and you had fans and tailgaters all talking together. And the nicest part was breaking down the barrier and having that fun with everybody. And now going forward, we're going to be doing that every year. And the last thing I'm going to mention is we went ahead this year and we decided to smoke meats for almost every single tailgate. So we created this thing called the Herdy's Pop-Up. It's a play on RB. We smoked the meats and we put a little bit of extra love in that food for our fellow fans this year. So it was really cool to do that. Very special. Next year, we're probably going to be doing much of the same, but we're also hoping too, right now, we're at 187 spots. We're really hoping that with more interest, we see it go beyond that 187 and, maybe we start filling up the other parking lots as well.
That'd be the goal.
Yeah, that'd be great. And one thing that is really great to see at the tailgate that I've seen a lot of photos is you get so many fans from other teams as well there, and it brings everyone together really good. And I like seeing that within the CFL community. So that's really great to see.
No, you're right. A lot of at a Winnipeg Blue Bombers versus Edmonton Elks game, you see BC Lions fans.
Yes.
Or at an Alouettes and
you always see Saskatchewan fans.
Riders. There's
everywhere.
Always a Riders fan.
Fans are everywhere. So.
Maybe they'll go into hiding now.
I love it. Hey, you get to laugh and you get to say it, Jason. You get to say it.
Have Mr. Darren DuPont ready. His Facebook bio says, always on the road, likely to an arena or stadium to be on your TV or radio. He's the owner of DuPont Media and co-host of the Rod Peterson Show on YouTube, Game Plus Network, and more. Darren Moose DuPont, welcome to Puck and Pigskin.
Hey, man. It's good to be on. How are you?
I am doing well. How are you?
Doing great. Doing great.
That's good. That's good. There's a few minutes of dead air there while we had some technical difficulties here, but we got them all sorted out and we're ready to go.
Okay.
So let's dive right in, Darren. You guys have had the Rod Peterson Show going on live every Wednesday or every weekday now for over 3 years. Episode 1107 just aired this morning, and there have been so many changes to the show. Give me your quick thoughts about how much has changed and how much of a proud papa you are of your baby.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome to see how much it's changed and how much it's grown. I mean, since day one, when we had an empty studio in a hollow room with technical difficulties and an empty desk and all the kind of things that went on to, everywhere it's gone since, and the level of guests we've had and how we've been able to, broadcast from, every corner of North America, really. I mean, from the West Coast and Vancouver area to Montreal, Toronto, here in the GTA, to Florida, to LA. Like, we literally hit the corners of the continent, which has been pretty cool. So yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun watching it grow and develop and change, and all for the better.
Yeah, and anyone who follows the show knows that you, of course, moved from Regina to Toronto. Was that a business move for something coming up with DuPont Media, or was that just a personal choice?
Little of column A, little of column B. Nothing I can announce yet, but yeah, little personal for sure. Definitely a little business. So lots of fun things happening. It's good to be closer. Our TV partners are out here at Anthem Sports and Entertainment, so it's good to be out here, build those relationships, and personally too. So it's been great. Just a little teaser for you.
I can't wait to see what you got coming up. I'm always excited for new things, especially when they have anything to do with sports, which I'm hoping they do.
Yeah. Stay tuned.
Let's get into some Leafs talk. Now, being in the West and being a Flames fan, and I watch the Oilers, of course, because my wife's an Oilers fan. I don't watch a whole lot of Maple Leafs, but Matthews starts the season, back-to-back hat tricks. Ryan Reeves gets in some tussles. Jake Muzzin retires, and Woll is taking the net from Samsonov. Do I pretty much have the Leafs season covered so far?
It's pretty much it. Yeah, that's pretty much in a nutshell. It's never quiet and it's never boring when it comes. Well, I mean, it's like that in every market, but that's pretty much summed it up. Yeah.
Is there? Give me some good that you see so far in the season, and then maybe some bad if there is any.
Yeah, obviously it's good to see Matthews scoring at a good clip. I mean, ever since the two hat tricks were great. I mean, who could have seen that coming? It's been a little quiet since, but he got one back against Washington, so that's good.
Yeah.
I think William Nylander's been the most impressive Leaf, as you would maybe expect. The contract year for him, right? But he's been very good, and not just putting up points, but he dictates play, and that's one thing you notice with special players. And I don't know if he's not putting him in the McDavid category, but I think he's kind of on the edge of being a special player, like players that you really notice. I notice when he's on the ice a lot, which is pretty impressive. Almost more than I notice Matthews on the ice. Not saying that he's eclipsed Austin Matthews, but he's there. I know you obviously notice when McDavid's on the ice. You notice when Connor Bedard is on the ice. You notice when William Nylander's on the ice. So I think that's good. Quietly, John Tavares has gone about a point a game, and that's been good. Everybody wants to talk about the big cap hit and whatnot that he brings in, but he's quietly earned it, every bit of it, including, I mean, maybe the biggest goal in a decade for Leaf fans in that overtime game against Tampa to secure the series, right? So
Yeah.
he's earned it. Wool has been a pleasant surprise. I think I've seen somewhere somebody predicted that he's going to take over the net and be the starter by the end of the year. I think that was on Hockey Night of Canada, in a bold prediction. So that was pretty cool. What hasn't been great, they haven't started great. They started better against Tampa, even though they got behind early. They had a lot of shots. Things didn't go their way. They haven't started games great. And just a little bit of the consistency is missing. I still think a little of that jam. I mean, even though you brought in Reeves and, Max Domi's done a good job, picked up a few points now in the last couple of games. He seems to be finding his groove after a real tough start. But I still think this team needs to grow a little bit. But so far, so good. No need to panic.
And I think the only bad thing I can say right now is obviously the play of Samsonov. He hasn't been the goaltender that they obviously are wanting in the starter net. And yeah, right now the net is Wool's to lose, I would say.
Well, it is. I completely agree with you. I mean, he let in, I want to say it was 3 goals on 4 shots early against Tampa. Got pulled. Wall comes in. I think he made 28 saves the rest of the way. He's been really good. I think Samsonov will be fine. I like his mindset. At least what we see from him in the media, I think is pretty good, pretty positive. And that's why you have two goaltenders that are capable. I mean, Samsonov, they went through the arbitration in the offseason, and he was one of the better goaltenders in the league. Like, I would put him as a top 10 to 15 goaltender in the National Hockey League. Not playing like it now, but that's why you have Wool. That's why you have other players. I mean, they had Martin Jones. They have, obviously Matt Martin, who's on the long-term injury reserve. But that you need to have goaltenders. Look what Vegas went through. I think they were on goaltender 5 or 6 by the time they won the Cup, if you're including Robin Leonard. You need to have depth now at the goaltending position more than ever. Tampa's going through the same thing without Vasilevsky. So it's a good problem, and I think Samsonov will find his game before long.
Yeah. You mentioned Nylander is in a contract season right now. If things don't go the Leafs' way and they don't make a cup run, does Nylander possibly look somewhere else, or do the Leafs look to make any moves, you think?
I don't. I think at this point, Nylander is going to be a Leaf. He's going to sign a contract. I don't see him signing anywhere else. It's a matter of what that number looks like. It's not long before Tavares' contract comes up, and it won't be north of $11 million, right? John Tavares probably comes in a $6-7 million range on his next deal, my guess. So that comes down. There's more room for Nylander. It's a matter of, can you get there? But I don't see them breaking up the core, at least not now. I think they're right firmly in the window. They were flirting with it before, but I think they're firmly in the window. That's going to last, 3-4 years, 3-4-5 years of this team being able to be a real Stanley Cup contender.
Yeah, that's a pretty good analysis, and I would have to agree with you. I think Nylander is definitely in Toronto to stay, and I think that whole core is definitely there to stay, depending on where the contracts go from here.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that was talked about during the season was the Elks closing their upper bowl in 2024.
Yes.
I personally like this move, and I like to see maybe more teams do this to get a higher concentration of fans in the lower sections and closer to the game to maybe bring a little more spark to the game. You being a media and marketing kind of guy, how do you feel about that?
You're not a season ticket holder. So I do understand in Edmonton, right? I do understand the season ticket holders. I mean, a second deck seat in rows 1 to 10 between the 40s is way better than sitting in the lower bowl at the 10-yard line, right?
Yeah.
So I get that. You're going to lose a lot of really great seats, and that's unfortunate, especially for long-time season ticket holders. So what I would do, I don't know how you do it. I would give them a lower bowl seat, if you're going to close off the upper deck. But then I would offer them, the first time it's going to be opened, they can move. They can get the first opportunity to move upstairs, right? I would give them the first chance because that's important. I do understand, though, it's about the atmosphere. So you want to make sure the atmosphere is there. And the thing that sucks is, how are they going to handle those fans that were paying for those second deck seats in the middle, right? Are they going to, for the same price, get moved into the lower bowl in the end zone to have that 50-yard line seat that they maybe have had for 30 years? Are they going to be asked to pay twice as much money? I hope not, right? So I hope there's something there. That's a problem they're going to have to deal with. They know that. But, from a environment, from a game day experience, I think having a full lower bowl is going to be better. It's going to look better on TV. It's an issue in Toronto. What you see on TV and what the building looks like are two kind of different things, because when you look on TV, it's the biggest side of the stadium. There's no suites over there, really. It's a big side of the stadium, and the lower bowl is kind of somewhat spattering of fans, maybe half full, 3/4 full, and the upper deck on that side is closed off most games, right?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the side that the teams are on, because they're on the same side of the field, and the side that you don't see on camera is full. It's full, packed with the most passionate fans. And so that's part of why Toronto gets a bad rap. You go to the game in Toronto and you're pretty excited. So I'm like, this was a lot of fun. I've been to a few since I've been here. It's a lot of fun. The fans are great. They're all decked out. But you look across and it doesn't look very good. And that's an issue I think that other stadiums have. And I see it all the time. I do university football games on TV, and I see they only open one side of these big stadiums in Regina, Calgary. And I don't know, I can't remember off the top of my head what they opened in Winnipeg, but I've been there a few times too. But Calgary, Regina for sure, in CFL stadiums, they only open the one sideline, the one side of the stadium for fans. And it's the side that the camera doesn't see, right? And that's a problem. But I get it. That's where the parking lot is. That's where the concessions are going to be open. You don't want to route people all the way around. There's a lot of expenses. Like, there's reasons they do it. It's not just that they don't know what they're doing. Yeah. But it's just unfortunate from a TV perspective, because we get to shoot at an empty stadium, and the viewer at home doesn't get to see who's in the building. And that's a disservice to the product. So I think the shots on TV will be great, especially, it'll be very much like the bubble in hockey. Yeah. Where they can do some great branding with the tarps over top of the seats and maybe decorate the stadium a little bit. If they keep them as empty seats, it'll look just as bad. But if they tarp them, which they will, and they'll put sponsors on them, and some maybe cool designs and different Edmonton Elks branding, so it'll be cool and it'll look pretty good.
Let me get you here. Where are you? That's the fun of doing this live, right? Ray and Benny, welcome to Puck and Pigskin.
Hey, how's it going?
It is going great. How you guys?
Can't complain.
Doing good. Thanks for having us.
No worries. Let's let me just find my notes here. Whoops.
That was very interesting that you're bringing the heat that you hope the Bombers don't win in the West. You know, I'm going to take issue with that.
Do you know, it's only because you guys win so much and have won so much in the last 3 or 4 years. It's not that I don't like the Blue Bombers. I love Zach Collaros and Adam Bighill, and it's not that I don't like them. It's that I'm just tired of them winning.
Don't forget, we went 29 years without winning anything, so kind of do.
That's fair.
We're trying to catch up in happiness with all of y'all in Calgary for all those years that you guys won.
Yeah.
So as I said, the Blue Bombers are hosting the Lions this weekend, and it would be easy for a fan to say their team is obviously going to win. Give me your guys' honest, unbiased opinion. How you think the game's going to go this weekend? Let's start with Benny.
I honestly think it could go either way. As much as I am a Bomber fan, BC has played them very well this year. Obviously, we saw them in that first game. They took it to the Bombers. Bombers got their revenge in the second one, and that third game, BC had them. But the Bombers flipped the script in the second half. The D started playing better. Collaros, yes, he made mistakes in that game, but he ended up doing enough to help the Bombers win that game. So honestly, I see, both offenses are very good. We know that. Bombers D is probably playing a little bit better than BC's D down stretch, but I do expect the Bombers to win ultimately, but I can see this also going BC's way as well.
Yeah, it really depends on the weather, to be honest with you. If the weather gets bad, it's not supposed to get too bad, but even if it gets wet and a little mucky, that's in Winnipeg's advantage, because BC has yet to prove that they have a running game. And I think in a playoff game, if it does get cold and if it does get mucky, you need that running game. And if it does get cold and mucky, I think that's totally in the Bombers' advantage, never mind being home field. I think the weather will be in the Bombers' advantage because they can run the ball all day long.
So does Winnipeg have a running game at all? I haven't noticed.
I think even without the weather, that Bomber running game is going to be a huge factor, because Oliveira has been obviously very, very good this year, right? So I think they're going to need to use that and pound that BC front seven and wear them down quite a bit throughout the game, and then just take it over. Because we know BC can score quick, right? They've got some very good receivers. Keon Hatcher just about 200 yards last game against Calgary there in the semis. So yeah, there should be an exciting game though.
Hollins, Rhymes.
Yeah.
No,
McInnes.
Yeah. They
the
are
benched Lucky Whitehead.
Yeah. And talk about wide receiving cores. The Bombers had a strong one all year round, but without Dalton Schoen, that might be an issue, to be honest with you. If the Bombers do have to air it out late in the game to keep up with BC, especially if Nick Dembski's not at 100% either.
Yeah, that is a concerning part with Bailey, Dembski, and Dalton Schoen not practicing yet this week. But hey, this is why you paid Kenny Lawler the big bucks to kind of come back. He's going to have to step it up.
Yeah, and you guys kind of ran right into my next question, which was going to be to maybe update us on any key injuries or roster changes heading into the weekend.
Well, yeah, that injury list is long, but a lot of them are just for rest and maintenance. It's the receiving core that's the real issue for me. Looking at that, Dembski maybe and Schoen probably out. That's where my issue is.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what if they practice tomorrow, because then that'll be a good gauge if they're playing or not. The only other one on that list was Jeff Code, I think, was on there as well as a do not practice, I think. So he worries me as well, because the Bombers obviously need to get after Vernon Adams and keep him in that pocket to have success. So, and the Bombers have shown without Jeff Code in a game that defense is pretty pedestrian.
Yeah, and you touched on the weather. Any clue what the weather is looking like right now for Saturday?
It's looking like 0 and clear, really. I mean, it'll get a little bit chillier, I guess, by the time game's time. It's 5:30 Winnipeg time, or Central time. So, yeah, it's looking way better than it probably should be for this time of year.
Yeah, perfect football weather.
Yeah, considering the last two West semis we went to were brutally cold. this is quite the change.
Yeah, and there's some fun in that.
Yes,
especially if the Bombers are winning, you don't feel that cold.
No.
If we're on the other end of that score, who knows?
So I just recently got into your show, and I love your show because it's a good mix of CFL football and NHL hockey, just like my show, of course. So let's get into some hockey talk with the Jets, who started off 3-1, losing opening night to my Flames, of course. Mm-hmm. Since then, kind of been 50-50 with a couple of loser points from overtime games. Lost a couple of games to the Golden Knights, but then again, who hasn't? Right now, they sit third in the West Central Division, one win behind the Avs for first. Give me your quick impressions on the start of the season so far.
Fun fact, when we were thinking of names for our podcast, we were like, yo, Puck and Pigskin would be cool. And then, of course, we look it up. We're like, nah, it's taken. So any which way, Benny, you want to go talk about
You must have been around before me, though.
We've been, what, 2 years now?
2 years, just over 2 years, yeah.
Oh, okay, so I probably just got it before you.
Totally, you just got it.
Up and down season so far for the Jets. And then in some of those first few games, especially that Flames game, Markstrom kind of stole that game away from the Jets. I thought the Jets were the better team, and they were good in the first few games, but they couldn't find ways to win some of those. And then they kind of got into a bit of a slump and have pulled back out with 2 wins in a row. So up and down, top line is playing well for the most part. Again, they had a bit of a slump in between. The power play, though, has been atrocious. Gotten better over the last few games. Penalty kill, though, needs to improve as well if they're going to have any chance. Right now, it doesn't look like the Central, besides Dallas and Colorado, look very strong. So there's a very good opportunity there for the Jets to maybe pull themselves into that third place spot and keep that spot for a while. But I can kind of see them going up and down from third to a wild card spot throughout the season.
Yeah, the way they're playing, I think, is the way that I kind of see them playing throughout the whole year. Yeah. I have them as a top 3 team in the Central, not depending on that wild card. So taking Dallas and Colorado out of the equation, they're going to be that third place team. So they're kind of where I thought they would be. They might get a bit better, especially if Hellebuck starts to be a little more consistent, playing at that Vezina level that we've seen him play before. Actually, if he gets at that level, they can definitely be the number 2 team in the Central. So yeah, nothing surprising. I'm looking forward to them getting Velarde back. He could be a big factor in the first 2 lines. He's a top 6 forward that brings a lot of versatility, a lot of speed, a lot of size. So it'll be interesting when he comes back, see what the Jets do, because I don't know, they're playing good from lines 1 to 4. They're playing fairly consistent. Second line needs a little work. Haven't been scoring as much as we want to, especially with Ehlers, but he's that streaky scorer, and I'm sure he'll get on track soon.
Yeah. It definitely helps that third line kind of picked up the slack with Lowry, Niederreiter, and Appleton when the top line of Scheifele, Connor, and IFL were not getting any points or goals or anything like that. So it's good to have, because we haven't had that where the third line in the past has kind of chipped in. It's usually relied on the top 2 lines, and if they're not going, we're in trouble unless Hellebuck's pitching a shutout. So like Ray said, Hellebuck has kind of he's had a few really good games, but a few softies. I think we looked at it, there was 8 out of 11 games, not including last night's game, they had given up 3 goals or more. Which is very uncharacteristic for Hellebuck, really. I know the Jets' D has not been good for the most part for the last few years, but Hellebuck usually does enough to keep that goals against down. So he'll need to step it up a little bit, and that'll definitely help. If that power play gets going and the penalty kill figures it out a little bit, yeah, they'll have a strong season.
Yeah, Hellebuck's sitting with 6 wins and 3 losses, but the goals against average of 2.98 and a save percentage 892. So that's how, without watching any games, that tells me that the Jets are giving up goals, but still finding a way to win. So, speaking of Hellebuck, him and Scheifele just signed new identical contracts. Give me your thoughts on the contracts.
They're good. We're excited. They're long because you never know what's going to happen at the end of those, right? Because they're both hitting 30 here. But for now, I like them, and it was quite shocking because I didn't expect them not to sign it then. Maybe throughout the season, maybe something would have happened. But when they did it, I was quite shocked that it got done.
Yeah, there was no buzz in Jets land
Nothing.
So that was coming up. And you know what? The contract's beneficial for both parties, for all parties. If it's not working out come trade deadline, those are very tradable contracts. You have these guys long term. A player like Scheifele for another 6 years at 8.5, same as Hellebuck after this year. A goalie like that under $9 million. So I think they just came to an amicable agreement. And it worked out very well for the Winnipeg Jets. And Shovel Dayoff. Shovel Dayoff has been really good at making moves. Like even this Blake Wheeler, sorry, this PLD trade. You know, we've talked about Iafalo and Velarde, and Kupari's been playing great. And I think PLD is like the 11th ranked forward on the Kings right now. So shout out to Shovel Dayoff. He's been great.
Yeah, and you kind of goofed there and mentioned Blake Wheeler, which oddly enough was going to be my next question. Do you feel the Jets are missing Blake Wheeler or not really?
No, it was time. It was a tough way to kind of end it between the two of them. I mean, you know, the Jets and Wheeler and that, but it was time. And whatever was happening in that locker room, you know, there's a lot of rumors of what was going on in there. I don't know if he was a big voice of it all or keeping things in disarray, but yeah, it was time for him to move on and time for the Jets to move on.
Yeah, I agree. He was like the last remnants of that Atlanta Thrashers culture team that I think, yeah, the Jets just need to get rid of it. He's not that he's ineffective, but he obviously wasn't as effective in his early years, and his role or his capabilities of a player probably looked a lot better on the Jets, as we're seeing now with where he's at with the Rangers. But yeah, it was time. He's a great contributor to the community, great captain. In regards to, I don't know, maybe he wasn't a great captain.
Maybe that part was the only bad part about him, really, right? Because yeah, it's great in the community and all that stuff. And I mean, he stuck around. He signed contract, a longer contract to stay in Winnipeg and all that stuff. So, and he was great on the ice. There's no question. He was very good on the ice for the Jets.
Yeah. Kyle Connor in 2021 and 22 had a breakout year, scoring 47 goals and 46 assists in only 79 games. I recall seeing him pop up on all kinds of highlights, and I was like, who the heck is this guy? How nice is it to see Connor putting up numbers while the hockey world was talking about your Scheifele's and your Wheelers and your Liney's, and here's this guy who was almost never heard of, and he's putting the puck in the net.
Yeah, he definitely was not never heard of in Winnipeg. We've loved this kid since he took a step up to the big team, but he's definitely been quietly going under the radar when you have guys like Wheeler and Scheifele getting all the attention, and Hellebuck and Bufflin and all those guys. So we knew about him, but he's been great for Winnipeg. He's just that offensive powerhouse that you kind of love to have and love to watch.
Yeah, defensively not so good, but offensively very good. And like you say, when Laine was here, yeah, Connor took a back seat to Laine, even though for the most part Connor was still chipping in a lot of goals, and then like you say, had that breakout season as well. So kind of helps you forget about Laine, because if we didn't have Connor with that goal scoring prowess, that would have definitely made things interesting for the Jets to see who would have stepped up into that sniper kind of role. So he's kind of made you forget about Laine a little bit, and Laine's kind of been unforgettable in Columbus, not setting any goals anywhere close to what Connor has done. So yeah, definitely a great pick there to have, and great thing. Again, another guy who has stuck around and signed a longer contract.
So are there any surprises to you guys so far? Guys not scoring, or give me your thoughts on anything that's came up so far in your mind?
Probably Ehlers, really. I expected him to take a next step, and when we did some bold predictions before the beginning of the year, I thought, mine was Ehlers is going to lead the team in points, but so far that has not happened, and he's looked okay, and it's kind of shocking to see that where he is in his career, that it's still happening to him, where he's kind of streaky, like Ray said earlier, right? He'll get some points like crazy and then kind of taper off quite a bit. So right now for me, it'd be the play of Hellebuck and the play of Ehlers.
For me, it'd be the lack of defense. I thought that unit would really take a step forward this year. Like, they're not the biggest defensive unit, and they're playing in a big division in the Central, so they're at a disadvantage there. But I don't know. I really just thought they'd be more dynamic, be pressuring the puck more, create more turnovers in their zone. But they're really being pushed around, especially in the corners and retrieving the puck. That's been an issue, and it's still going to be a concern for me all year long until they bring a big guy in, because we know Logan Stanley ain't that big guy.
Who else is there? Declan Chisholm. That's really it.
That's the issue. That's the issue. So yeah, they're a little small. They can move the puck. When they're turning the puck around, they're pretty effective. But in their own zone, I'm a little worried, especially when the other team gets possession of the puck and they can put a body in front of Hellebuck. That's my big concern.
And that's why they've struggled against Vegas so far, in both those games.
Yeah, it's really great. And so now the Tampa Bay Lightning have been a force in past years, but as of right now, sit 5th in the Eastern Atlantic with a record of 6-5-4. And have been getting by without Andrei Vasilevsky. How have the Lightning looked so far this season in your eyes?
I think the Lightning have looked incredible. In my opinion, they haven't really missed a beat as far as Vasilevsky not being there. Any of the games that you watch, they're still so strong at every position, just like they always have been. And I feel like Hedman has probably slowed down a little bit on the point, but he's a big dude and he's going to slow down quick. But as everybody else, Sergachev, Kucherov, Stamkos, a healthy Stamkos, you can't beat them. And I just really feel like they just continue to keep the puzzle pieces for the most part all together to make it work.
Yeah, and with both goaltenders hovering around 3.41 goals against average, and both have a save percentage under 900, do you foresee the Lightning doing anything to shore up goaltending to ensure they make the playoffs and possible cup run?
Well, Vazzy's supposed to be back in December. Like, they're already shooting for him to be back in December. So I think they're just going to I don't think there was any real threat that Vasilevsky was going to miss a lot of time. So I think they were just kind of waiting it out a little bit and waiting for him to be completely healthy. I don't think they really need to make any moves, but Tampa's probably past the point of winning any more cups. However, I still feel like they're going to be a threat.
Now, the Florida Panthers, Rod, sit second in the Eastern Atlantic and have looked pretty good for the most part. Yeah, definitely pulled some impressive moves already, though, against some of the big guys. Now, the Florida Panthers, Rod, sit second in the Eastern Atlantic and have looked pretty good for the most part. What are your thoughts on what you've seen so far from the Panthers this season?
Oh, they're fun to watch, and I was on a show the other day as a guest, and they asked that same question. They're like, "What's with the Panthers' hot start?" And I said, "They trust each other. They're an older team." And I've been at just about every one of their home games, and they got up 3-0 Columbus, went down 4-3, fell down 4-3, came back and tied it and won in overtime. They're on a 4-game winning streak right now. So they're a young team. Serena knows. She's been here longer than me. This core of the team's been together for a long time. Verhaeghe, Barkov, Tkachuk, Fields has been here for 10 years. Bobrovsky in goal. They have a lot of trust in each other. And the other night, I'm not sure which game it was, but Paul Maurice said afterwards, he goes, "There's a belief in our game." And I know what he meant. He's like, if they get down in a game, they believe they're going to come back. That's a confidence thing. Their nickname 2 years ago was the Comeback Cats, and they're still largely that team.
Yeah, and I haven't seen much of the Panthers and Lightning, being that they're in the East. And has Tkachuk come out of the slump yet, or what's happening with him? That's the big talk in Florida, is it not?
Yeah, amongst us. I mean, Serena, she can handle this. There is no hot. Heard you say, Serena, we were the only ones talking about Tkachuk hadn't scored in 6 games to start the season.
I think Rod kind of
can you hear us
a little bit there, but I think the thing is, like, we were talking about it, and yeah, we were the only people talking about whether or not Tkachuk had scored. But like I also said to Rod, you don't get a guy like Tkachuk as a goal scorer. So I don't think anybody was super stressed out about it, really. I don't know if anybody really paid that much attention to it, but nobody's stressed out about it around here because it's not what he's getting paid to do. It benefits the team, but I think they just like what he brings to the team as opposed to just putting the puck in the net.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Now, Serena, you're a huge Oilers fan, and Rod, I know you used to be a big Oilers fan and maybe still are. So it'd be silly of me not to ask, what are your thoughts on the Oilers season so far and the coaching changes they made this week? Serena, I'll start with you.
Well, last week on the show, we were talking about I think it was when they waived Skinner, and we were talking about whether or not they were going to get rid of Woodcroft. I'm like, they're not going to do it right away. They're going to wait a second. They got to let things die down. They have to, kind of come up with a plan here. You're not going to make that move 2 days in a row. But I'm not surprised at any of it. And one thing I will say, maybe it's because I'm biased because I'm an Oilers fan, but I really didn't see any Oilers fans wanting to burn the city down and getting upset and angry and fire Woodcroft. And there was nothing but positive vibes towards Jay Woodcroft. And that's interesting because the Oilers have had such a rough start. But you didn't see anybody trying to burn the city down like I thought we were going to. But I think they'll have the same mentality as me. They're going to turn it around. They've got the team to do it. So there's just that one little piece that's missing. So when that happens, it's only a matter of time before they light that fire under their asses.
Yeah, of course, you're talking about waiving Campbell, not Skinner. Oiler fans, settle down, Oiler fans. Yeah, I heard Rod mention the same thing Tuesday on his show as well about they're going to turn it around. It's just a matter of when. Rod, what are your thoughts on what you've seen so far and the changes that have taken place in the last week?
Well, to clarify, I was an Oilers fan until August 9th, 1988.
Oh,
that was the last day that I cheered for the Edmonton Oilers. So I still follow them, and watch
real Oilers fans will know why.
Everyone.
I don't need to explain why. So I thought it was a knee-jerk move to fire Jay Woodcroft because, again, U.S. Thanksgiving is still really that cutoff line. I think they should have given them a little more time. But the glare in that town, it's similar to Calgary, and I assume we'll talk about the Flames here in a minute. They got forced into a move. To be honest, I'd be more worried now if I was an Oilers fan. So they got their game together by beating the Islanders 4-1 the other night. I thought it was pretty interesting. Connor David said after the game that his buddy Chris Knobloch really didn't do anything. He said, guys, I don't have enough time in the morning skates to go over anything, so just go out and play. All of a sudden, McDavid and Draisaitl combined for 6 points. Like, maybe that's what they should have been doing all along. I just thought it was too early to fire the head coach. Woodcroft, it's insane that he leaves with the highest winning percentage in Oilers history, regular season. Like, insane. I get that they weren't playing, but I'm not totally sure that it's Jay Woodcroft's fault. So we'll see where it goes from here. I know Chris Knobloch. He's from Imperial, Saskatchewan. He's a great guy. I also know Paul Coffey, and I have an infinite amount of respect for him. So if you're going to bring anybody in, and I guess those – but at some point, you have to stop firing coaches. But, I mean, you live in Red Deer. You hear this buzz all the time. I don't know how you deal with it. I saw it today. People are like, David's gone when his contract's up. I'm like, I don't want to hear it of him. I don't want to hear any of this because it's just people talking to talk. And I'm tired of it.
Ship them all out of town. Trade them all. Now, it's one thing to be surprised about Woodcroft getting fired. I was more shocked that he was fired the day after a win. Was there something in that, or what's the story there, do you think?
They'd made the decision to fire him before that game in Seattle. The San Jose game, which they lost, was going to dictate whether they kept him or not. So they'd made the decision. It's cruel, Jason. It's cruel that, talk about Hogg going to Slaughter. They knew, the Oilers bosses, that Woodcroft was coaching his last game in Seattle, but he didn't. But that's the way it goes.
Yeah, and as far as waiving Campbell goes and sending Campbell to the minors, that was probably already coming in a lot of people's minds. Do you think that helps Skinner's game, thinking that there's not, a battle anymore for the number one spot, and now that the net's his?
Go ahead, Serena. She's thoughts.
Serena, I'll let you tackle that one.
Well, I feel I have been saying for at least a year now that the Oilers need to pick a goaltender. You can't go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth for a season and a half plus. It's ridiculous. And they were just always on the fence. And when you're a forward on that team, you don't know who your starter is. When you're a goaltender on that team, you don't know if you're starting or not. How can you get into a flow as a goaltender when you don't you have to get these goaltenders in a flow. Every goaltender that is considered the best in the world has been 100% the starter on their team. 80% of the games minimum that they play. Vasilevsky, he's going to play the majority of the games when he comes back. This back and forth stuff works at the first couple games of the World Juniors, and that's about it. So I've been saying for a long time that they need to figure it out. And if they clearly decided that they were going to go with Skinner as their guy, that was a move they had to make. They had to choose. And they finally did it. And I'm not saying it was the right decision or the wrong decision. Only time will tell. But I'm just relieved that they actually made a decision.
So far it's looking like the right decision. Skinner had a hell of a game last night, but again, it was the Islanders, so hard to judge. Jeffrey Krantzman, welcome to Puck and Pigskin.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here, and I love your show, so this is quite awesome. So thank you so much.
Yeah, great to have you on. Right now, the Rangers are in a pretty high and mighty spot, although Vegas got a point last night and pulled ahead. But they were in first place yesterday with 15-4-1 record. That has to be the best start the Rangers have had in a while. Am I right?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, they're exceeding expectations. There are some people that, I think for some reason thought they would regress this year. I was not one of them, but I don't think any of us that were on the optimistic side saw this coming. This has been quite the start.
Yeah, and they're not just winning games; they're scoring some goals. I've seen games 3, 4, 5, 6, and even they put a 7 spot up on the Bruins. Tell me who's earning their money on this team right now.
Well, Artemi Panarin is having as good of a year as he's ever had. I mean, he has to be in the early discussion, at least in the MVP race in the league. I mean, I think that's just, it would have to be. The other thing that has been really, in terms of earning their money is Jonathan Quick in the backup role. He's been phenomenal. I mean, this is like Jonathan, he hasn't lost yet. He's been, I think he's like 6-0-1 or something like that.
Yeah.
He's been outstanding. So, you couple that, good goaltending. Obviously, Igor's not too shabby himself. And good goals, and the team's playing some defense under a structure that Peter Laviolette has tried to implement, and the team's playing pretty well.
Yeah. Speaking of Panarin, he has scored in the second period. The Rangers are losing 2-1, but Panarin has scored. So
yes, he did.
You mentioned Jonathan Quick. Shesterkin came in as the number one guy, and then along came Quick. Right now, like you said, 6 wins and 1 overtime loss. He's got a goals against average of 1.99 and a .930 save percentage. First of all, is that a huge surprise? And has Quick taken over the number one spot in the Rangers net, do you think?
Well, he's definitely not taking over the number one spot. I mean, that's Igor's to lose. You have a Vezina winning guy.
Yeah.
And Igor hasn't been Igor, but he also hasn't been bad either. And he's been actually a lot better. I took a family road trip down to Philadelphia to see the game on Friday, and Igor was phenomenal. So yeah, I look, Quick has been above and beyond. I think in the offseason on July 1st when they signed him, a lot of people were thinking, hey, this is not Jonathan Quick, LA Kings 2012. What are we thinking here? And when you're a backup goalie in the league, look, if you can go 500 and kind of ride a 500 wave and give your starter a rest, you'll take it. So he's been 6-0-1. I mean, he's just been unbelievable.
Yeah, you mentioned going to see that game in Philly with your family. Jeffrey tells a great story about going to that game on his last episode of his pod. That was a great story. Yeah, so yeah, like I mentioned here, the Rangers sit first place in the NHL with an 18-5-1 record. This has to be the best start that the New York Rangers have had in quite some time. Am I right?
Yeah, in a long time. And I'm actually quite surprised, to be honest with you, that they're this hot to start the year because, growing up a Ranger fan my whole life, I was only 2 months old when they last won the Stanley Cup. So I do have vivid memories of it, but I haven't actually seen them win it. I've only seen highlights. So in my lifetime, I've never actually seen the Rangers win a championship, although I would like to. But with that being said, this is probably the best that I have seen the Rangers look in a while. And that's saying a lot considering the fact that I've been harping on this team to play better defensively for nearly a decade now, and they actually have. And that is one of the key reasons as to why they've been off to this hot start, outside of the fact that they had a poor performance against the Ottawa Senators last night, but that's another discussion for another day. My point being is this. I do love the fact that they're this hot, but at the same time, I am a bit concerned about it because they still have shown flashes where they still try to go for the pretty pass way too much. Just shoot the puck. It is nice that they're actually shooting it a lot more this year than in years past, but at the same time, when you shoot so much and focus so much on scoring, you also tend to forget how to defend. So you got to figure out how to do both. And until I see it, I'm still a bit skeptical about this hot start. However, I am happy at the same time because they are looking really, really good. Literally everybody is contributing. Panarin is just absolutely on fire right now. He's on pace for a 100-point season. Keandre Miller's adding a great offensive game to his already great defensive play. Jacob Trouba's a shot-blocking machine. What more can you say about him? Chris Kreider. I know Zibby's been off to a slow start because of Banachek, but he's starting to pick things up a little bit. You have literally everybody contributing. The young guys like Will Cooley, who's showing why he belongs on this team. Will Cooley's been tremendous. Who else am I forgetting about? Eric Gustafsson has actually stepped in and become a great sixth defenseman for this team. I was really surprised by how good he's looked so far. But, you really have to love how this Rangers team is. Like you said, they're at the top of the NHL, which is something I was not expecting personally. I was expecting it to be, Boston all the way. I picked Boston to go to the Stanley Cup final this year. Look, a lot can change. Who knows? But as we stand right now, at the time of this live stream, the Rangers are at top. And do I hope it remains that way? Obviously, yes, because I'm a Ranger fan. I am realistic, and I know that it probably will not last. But for now, I am happy that they are this hot.
Yeah, so them and Boston have kind of been flip-flopping between 1 and 2, I think, the last few weeks. Vegas started off hot, of course, and they're kind of leveling off now. So it may be between the Rangers and Boston there for top spot.
Yeah, as of right now, I don't mean to cut you off, Jason. I apologize. But as of right now, Boston is at 17 wins on the year. They're off tonight. Their next game is tomorrow against Buffalo in Boston. So that'll probably be an easy win for them. But who knows? The Sabres are one of those kind of sneaky, pesky teams. So you never know what can happen in that one.
Yeah, and not only are the Rangers off to a hot start, they're actually scoring goals. I've seen some scores with some 4s, some 5s, some 6s in there. They put up 7 on Boston.
Yes.
You kind of already answered the question I was going with this about who's earning their spot on the team right now. So I'll go to my next question. On a team doing this well, is there anybody that you feel is not living up to expectations?
Well, to answer your question about who deserves to make the spot, like I said, it was Will Cooley. He's showing why he belongs on this team. That's a really tough one. Who is not living up to their expectations?
If anybody.
I mean, I really can't think of anybody off the top of my head because, like I said, you literally have everybody contributing. Literally everybody. Now, look, losing Capo Caco hurts. Who knows what the hell's going to happen with him? I wish him nothing but the best. But I'll sort of rephrase the question here. If you want to talk about somebody who's been a bit shaky this year, I would definitely have to point to Igor Shesterkin. Because, look, he obviously is one of the best goalies in the NHL. There's no question about that. But this year, for some reason, he's had quite a few spurts where he's given up more than 3 goals a game, which is not what you want. I mean, look at last night against Ottawa. He gave up 5. I think a couple nights ago, he gave up 6. He gave up 5 another night. So this is not what you want. He has been very, very shaky. Jonathan Quick has been better than Igor Shesterkin this year. Jonathan Quick is 7-0-1 to start the year. He has been tremendous with the Rangers. Igor, look, I get Igor only has 4 losses on the year, so it's nothing to really, well, now 5. So it's really nothing to set alarm bells about, but it is a bit of a concern because I don't know if he's playing hurt. Look, I don't know these things, but something is off about Shesty. So to kind of rephrase your question as to who's been more shaky rather than who is not living up to expectations, because I really can't think of anybody. So as far as who's more shaky, I would definitely say it's been Igor, no question.
Yeah, and last week I had Jeffrey Krentzman on also talking about the New York Rangers, and he felt that Capo Caco hasn't quite been living up to expectations. How do you feel about that?
I mean, yes, you can point to him, but look what happened. He got hurt. So is that really fair to say now? I don't think so. No, look, has he lived up to being the number 2 overall pick that we expect him to be overall? I don't think so. But as far as this year is concerned, I really don't think it's fair to say that because he got hurt. And he's going to be on IL. We don't know how long he's going to be out. It could be 4 to 6 months. Who knows? It could be season ending, although I keep hearing it's not season ending. I don't know. I'm no doctor. I'm no reporter. I just go by what I hear. But look, I love Capo Caco a lot. I want him to succeed in this league. But when he comes back from this leg injury, I want to see how it's going to play out before we make any assumptions on how he's not living up to any expectations. Because again, he's still young. He's still in his early 20s. So I'm not ready to say, oh, he's not living up to these expectations or he's a bust. Although I did have my doubts about Alexis Lafreniere, but that's another conversation for another day. And now Alexis Lafreniere was making me eat crow in the best way possible because look at the start he's having to the year. But bottom line is this. As far as Capo Caco is concerned, I think it's a little bit unfair because he got hurt this year.
Yeah, and speaking of that, that injury definitely didn't look good. Is there a definite time frame on a return, or is that not even close?
So far, from what I've heard, it is a 4 to 6 month period of time in which he'll be out. Again, I don't know for sure. That's what I've heard from a couple of Rangers reporters on Twitter. But as far as I know right now, it's 4 to 6 months. It could be longer. It could be season ending, but who knows? But you are right. That injury did not look pretty at all. I just hope it's not as serious as we saw that it looked on the ice.
So we could be looking at a possible return for the playoffs.
Yeah, no, I definitely think the Rangers are a playoff team this year.
Of course.
But here's my concern. What are they going to do in the playoffs? Because as of recently, they've had a track record of not doing well when it comes to the playoffs. Look at last year. Granted, they did force a 7th game against the New Jersey Devils, but you saw throughout that entire series, the Devils were obviously the better team. As much as it pains me to say it, it's true. I know Neil's probably listening to this right now and a bunch of other Devils podcasts, but it's the truth. The Rangers' playoff record recently has not been good. Now, do I expect something different this year? Part of me kind of does. I expect them to at least make the conference finals, but at the same time, I'm going to temper that expectation because I know what this Ranger team is capable of in the playoffs. For some reason, they just forget how to do almost everything. They don't know how to shoot. They don't know how to defend. Their goaltending seems... Well, actually, no, I'm sorry. I take that back. Their goaltending seems to amp it up a level, and then the rest of it is just right down the crapper, all right? So, do I expect the Rangers to make the playoffs? Absolutely, I do. They're going to make the playoffs. No question about it. It's when they get there is when we'll find out who this team truly is. And until I see that, I'm still skeptical about it.
Yeah, and you mentioned when they get there, goaltending I think is going to be a big thing like it is obviously with every team in the playoffs. You touched on Jonathan Quick, who's come in, 7 wins, 1 overtime loss. Number 1, is that a huge surprise to you? And number 2, is Shesterkin losing the number 1 starting job?
Shesterkin is not losing the number 1 spot. Let's just get that out of the way right now.
That's what Jeffrey said too.
He will have the number 1 spot, barring an injury or anything else catastrophic. So let's just get that out of the way right now. But Jonathan Quick has been not really a surprise, but it's been a really great story, man. It's been a really good story. He gets to come in, play for the childhood team that he rooted for ever since he was a kid. He's finally in a blue shirt uniform, and now he's going out there and having a resurgent type of season so far. He has been nothing short of spectacular. You look at he pitched a shutout against a supposed Edmonton Oilers team who was supposed to be really good in our eyes, but look at them right now. They're not as good as we thought. He has a couple of shutouts this year. Look at Jonathan Quick. And look, I get he's of an advanced age, excuse me, but that's the reason why you sign players like that to 1-year contracts. It's a 1-year contract worth $825,000. So if it didn't work out, then okay, you're not spending a ton of money on him. But this clearly seems to be working. And if the Rangers want to bring him back next year for 1 more year, sign me up. If he keeps up playing like this, I'll be happy to bring him back. So I'm not going to say it's a surprise, but it's been a hell of a story. I will say that.
Yeah, just under 900 grand for somebody who hasn't lost a game yet is not a bad bargain.
Yes. Well, so far, obviously things
So
can
far,
change.
so far.
You're not going to win every single start you have.
Yeah. Give me your thoughts on Blake Wheeler so far as a New York Ranger.
People need to calm down about Blake Wheeler because I'm seeing everywhere that Blake Wheeler's no good. Why is he on the team? He's old. Can we relax? Really? I mean, what is it, like 20 plus games into the season? Calm down, people. Calm down. Blake Wheeler is going to be fine. He wanted to come here. Look, I still think he has some things to prove. He's gotten off to a slow start, I'll admit it. But can we relax a little? Stop calling him a bust. Seriously, people, come on. Lay off the man. Look, I get he's 37 going on 38, but relax.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about your thoughts on the Jacob Trouba sticky swinging incident. Give me your thoughts on that whole situation.
I mean, truth be told, I did not see that take place live. I had prior commitments to that game, so I wasn't able to watch the entire game. But I did see what happened in the highlights. And look, that's a type of play that shouldn't happen. And you know, he admitted it. He took the blame. He got the. Do I think he should have gotten more than fined $5,000? Look, people are gonna rip me for this, but if you want to get technical, because I keep hearing that people are saying the NHL has gotten real soft over the years. If you want to take it to that mentality, then maybe you suspend him for a game or two. But I'm not the commissioner. I don't make those rules. But from my knowledge, that's just a play that shouldn't happen. You know, you can't just willy-nilly just cross-check somebody in the face like that. That's something that shouldn't happen. And I applaud Trouba for owning up to it. That's what a captain should do. And that is one of the reasons why he was named the captain of the Rangers, because he owns up to his mistakes.
Yeah, I as well did not see it happen live. I saw the replay. Tough to say. Things happen in the game when you're, when things get heated. So, but
Yeah.
You're right. Definitely good on him for owning up to it. And
Absolutely.
admitting. Jim Augustine, welcome to Puck and Pigskin.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
As you can see, I also did a wardrobe change just for you, Jim. I have to show you.
Nice. Yeah, I got my Robo Penguin on today too. So, yeah, we're.
It's funny because I bought this jersey probably in 1994 when I fit it much better, of course.
Well, you know how it is. Yeah, I had one too, a white one similar to that. I didn't have a number or name on it, but my kids wear it now because I don't fit in it anymore.
Yeah, just to give you a rough idea, how long ago was I bought this? I bought it for $98. Now you probably can't get one for under 200. So
yeah, you probably couldn't sniff it for that much.
So let's start off by talking about your show. How long have you been doing this, and how did you get started?
Well, we actually began podcasting, my son and I, like right after the Penguins won their back-to-back cup in 2017. He came to me and said, "Hey, Dad, why don't we do a podcast?" And I said, "Okay, we can do that." And we put it together, real basic, kind of sitting in our bedroom and listening to some of the other podcasts that were out there, and we just sat down. We talked about the Penguins. We did some funny, goofy things like. We did a prediction contest every week, and the loser would have to do some kind of weird punishment thing. And it was, that's just kind of what we did. We were kind of trying, I guess, make it more like I don't know, like a Dude Perfect type thing or something like that.
Yeah.
And so we started near the end of our second season. We actually brought in my middle daughter. And she started talking about the Pens, and so we finally started doing a little bit more serious podcasting. And then we got onto the Hockey Podcast Network just this year, and was just really excited about being a part of that. And we talk about mostly Penguin stuff, but we also talk about other teams in the league and what we're seeing, some of the trends and things that are going on there that that we like, that we don't like, things that that we feel like need to change, or things that are just absolutely ridiculous. Like there needs to be a bigger base fine for things like swinging sticks or taking people out.
Speaking of Jacob Trouba.
Well, yeah, I heard that conversation, and I won't tell Jimmy, but I can't stand Jacob Trouba. God bless him. But anyway, there just needs to be more of a discipline to dissuade guys from doing this kind of stuff. I mean, they take their fine $5,000, even to the mid-league minimum guys. It's nothing, and I don't think it dissuades them from doing it. I'll pay $500 to take a guy out, $5,000 to take a guy out. Yeah, I mean, if I miss a couple of games, I miss a couple of games. At this point, they really don't care, because we're only 2 months into the season. But I think the league needs to do more than that. So we talk about stuff like that. We talk about all kinds of different National Hockey League stuff, and just really like to talk about teams that are doing well, teams that are doing poorly, like our own Penguins and that kind of thing. But yeah, that's how we got started, and so it's the three of us. It's my son and my daughter, and we just absolutely love doing it, and it's just a lot of fun. And we're not doing it for fame and fortune. We're just doing it to have a good time, and hopefully to inform some people.
Yeah, I don't think any of us are doing this for fame and fortune right now. We can't all be Pat McAfee or 32 Thoughts or
no.
So judging by your logo, I'm guessing your son is a Bruins fan, and your daughter Dallas Stars fan.
Well, see, now that's the thing. We are all Penguins fans first.
Yeah.
But through the last couple of years, we've decided, in order to keep the and stuff part of our Pens and Stuff podcast, we've each adopted one team from each of the other three divisions. And so Andrew's favorite is Boston, and he really loves rooting for Boston. Abby is just I don't know why, but she just clung to the Dallas Stars. She just loves them. And me, I'm Pittsburgh all the way. I grew up in northwestern Pennsylvania in the 70s, and so I'm Pittsburgh everything. Pirates, Steelers, Penguins. Nice. Yeah, we are. That's it. I suffered the year I started getting real interested in football was in 1980, right after the Steelers had won their fourth Super Bowl. And that's when the Steelers just kind of went into the toilet and suffered for about 10 years until Bill Cowher came and turned that club around. But yeah, so that's my background. I won't passionately root for any other team than Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and now I'm not too familiar with the Eastern Conference and hockey very often, but that kind of sounds typical of the Penguins as well. They usually have a good enough record to make the playoffs and then fizzle out in the playoffs.
Well, it has been the last several years. I think the last time we won first round was what, 2018? Is that right?
I don't know if you'd probably know that's right before I would, but that sounds about right.
I think it was 2018 because we lost in the second round to Washington, who eventually won the cup. But I think we've been bounced in the first round. We were bounced in the first round in 19 and 20, 21, and then we didn't make it last year or this last year. So yeah. I'm pretty sure that's the case.
Yeah. Now the Penguins are never a dull team to talk about. Of course, you have one of the greatest players to ever play the game in Sidney Crosby.
Yep.
And back when I was younger, had in my mind the best player to ever play the game in Mario Lemieux.
I'm not going to argue with you.
So, give us an example of what a roller coaster ride it is being a fan of this team.
Oh man, I mean, you have games that you score 10 goals like they did against San Jose, but I guess everybody's scoring 10 goals against San Jose.
Not the Oilers.
It's true. And then you have a game against Anaheim where you give up a shorthanded goal with 23 seconds left in the game to lose it 4-3, and you're scratching your head like, what the heck is this team? And the Penguins have this insane ability to give you hope one night and then rip your heart out and stomp on it the next. And they're in games most of the time. They're not. I mean, tonight they're down 3-0 to Tampa, but they're in games enough to be dangerous, to be competitive, and then it's like at the very last minute they lose. They just find a way to lose the game.
Yeah, I mean, they gave fans hope tonight because Gensel scored to start the third period, or I guess that was near the end of the third period. It looks like.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they lost 3-1. I hear
Yep.
what you're saying though, because my Flames aren't much better. They give you hope some nights, and then next nights they lay a big goose egg, and yeah.
I mean, like I said, I kind of follow the Flames too, and I don't know what the Flames' issue is, if it's goaltending or defense or just not being able to consistently put the puck in the net. But I say those things, and you could insert Calgary in one sentence and Pittsburgh in the other, and it would be the same song, second verse.
Yeah.
So it's frustrating. It really is.
Yeah, give me your thoughts on Kyle Dubas as a general manager since he's come in from Toronto. What do you think?
Well, he's definitely made some bold moves. He made a hard push for Karlsson, got him here. I said at the beginning of the year that I was a little nervous about what might happen having Karlsson and Letang on the same team. Both of them are fairly regularly in the minus category. As great a season as Karlsson had last year, he was still a minus 27. I think that's right, last year. And so, which means, he scored, what was it, 100 and some odd points. So he was on the ice for 100 and some odd goals for, but he was also on the ice for almost 130 goals against. Mm-hmm. So as a defenseman, that's not good. And Chris Letang is usually that way too. And so I was always, when this thing was going on, I was telling Andrew and Abby, my kids, on air, and on our preseason podcast, I said, I'm excited about this as far as the potential of this team for scoring goals is. And I really thought the power play would be a lot better than it is. And I'll get to that more in a minute. But Kyle Dubas bringing in Karlsson, I thought was, for him to do that was a real bold move. Obviously he brought some other pieces in. My hope, though, is I want to see him get through a draft. I want to see us draft some decent prospects. I'm looking at our prospect pool. There aren't a lot of guys down in Wilkesboro Scranton who I think have what it takes to play up on the big team. And there's a couple names: Alex Nylander, Valtteri Puustinen. I don't know if that's right, if I'm saying that name right. Those two guys have played up with the big team and have done well. But I'm not sure they're consistent enough, even at the minor league level, to show some good stuff. So I think Kyle's got to show me something in the draft. Interesting to see what he does. And again, that's a lot's going to depend on where the Penguins are at the trade deadline. If we make a push to try and get better, or if we're going to sell off a lot of these pieces that we have, I don't know. I can't remember a season like this where we were 2 months in and the identity of this team, we still don't know what it is. And that's disturbing to me. And I don't know if that's a Dubas thing, or if it's a Mike Sullivan thing, or if it's a Sidney Crosby thing, or an Evgeny Malkin thing, or Tristan Jarry thing. I honestly don't know. This team has me so confused that sometimes I just want to put my head through a brick wall. Hence what I have behind me. So that's behind you. Yeah, that's so it's there, it's ready to go. But I don't know.
You mentioned possibly selling off pieces, and the talk every year is, Malkin is disgruntled. He's going to leave the Penguins, or is any of that ever going to happen? Are Crosby, Malkin, and Letang, who have, I believe, set the record this year for the longest 3 teammates in North American sports?
Yeah.
Are either 3 of those pieces ever going to leave the Penguins?
I would be very surprised if any of those 3 leave. And again, if someone were to come along and say, hey, we want Malkin, we want Letang, we want Sid, and the pieces coming back were good enough, right? Like if you had Sid here and the stack for him was like this high, I could see Dubas maybe pulling the trigger on that. But honestly, I'm not sure how long he would stay in Pittsburgh if he traded any one of those 3 pieces. Does that make sense? Yeah. I think these 3 guys are the Penguins right now. And I think these 3 guys, well, maybe not Letang so much, but I think Malkin and Crosby are both generational talents, and to have 2 generational talents on the same team twice, because you had that in Mario and Yager back in the 90s. To have that twice in your leagues or in your team's history is is insane. I honestly think Jake Gensel has potential to be a generational talent. But again, right now he's playing in the shadow of Crosby and Malkin. And I think what Gensel does more often than not is he gives up a lot of chances to try and get Sid the puck.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing with this team. I mean, we can talk about that if you want to, but that's just another thing with this team that bothers the crap out of me. They don't shoot the puck enough. At least the guys who should be shooting the puck don't shoot the puck enough.
Yeah. So you mentioned possibly, if the stack for Crosby is up here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, speaking as not a fan, but as a real non-biased fan of the game, is Crosby still worth a stack?
I don't know. He's slower than molasses. But I mean, he still does stuff that you watch it and you go, holy crap, what just happened? He's maybe lost a step speed wise. He hasn't lost anything up here.
No.
The guy is smarter than probably every other player on the ice at any given time. And then not only to be able to outsmart somebody, but then to be able to do what he does with the puck, to get it to a guy, to make that pretty pass or to take that shot. Yeah, I would say, I don't know. It would have to be the right situation for him, right? Where he wouldn't have to be the guy. Maybe I don't know, maybe Boston or Edmonton or I don't know. I can't imagine what team would be willing to part with what they would need to part with to get Crosby, because what you'd be giving up would not be helping Crosby. Does that make sense?
I know this would probably never happen, but I saw a post last week that said Connor Bedard doesn't like the culture in Chicago and he wants out of Chicago. Of course, that was going to come up. I knew that.
Yeah.
Let's say theoretically Chicago says, hey, we'll shoot you, Bedard. You send us Crosby and Letang.
Wow. I would say no because, well, I don't know because
well, you're losing some offense and some defense, so that's probably not a good trade.
Well, you got Carlson in there now, and Carlson's more of an offensive guy anyway. He's not really a defensive defenseman.
Yeah.
I don't know. That would I'll tell you what, I'll bring it up on our next podcast and we'll talk about it.
I'm curious to see
I'll get Andrew and Abby's opinion on that.
What are your thoughts on head coach Mike Sullivan so far this season?
I think he's got to be on the hot seat to a certain degree because this team is underperforming like crazy. Right now, the league average power play is 20%. The Penguins sit just above 10, and that's with the talent that's on that power play. You've got Carlson, you've got Malkin, you've got Crosby, you've got Gensel, you've got who's the fifth guy on that? Fooey. I can't think of his. I keep forgetting these guys' names. Anyway, but even just those four, you need to be producing more than just over 10%, and they're not. And I don't know why. Well, I do kind of know why. They don't shoot. Everybody's trying to outpass the next guy, and they don't shoot the puck. And they'll go 0 for 4 on the power play and only have 2 shots on 8 minutes of power play time. And that's not going to get it done. And this team has got to shoot, and those shots that they take have to get on net and have a chance for a rebound. I think Gensel is strong enough and willing enough to get in front of the net and do the dirty work that say Hornquist used to do back in 16, 17. But yeah, this team is vastly underperforming in every facet of this season. When your goalie has more goals than 5-6 guys on your team, that's concerning. but yeah, I mean, this is. Yeah, and that power play's given up 4 shorthanded goals already this year.
Yeah,
4 shorthanded goals this season. They've only scored 7 goals on the power play this year. They've given up 4 on the power play this year.
So the power play is only a +3 right now.
That's right. That's right. To me, that's the biggest thing, and that's coaching. And whether that's Sullivan or the assistants, I don't know, but buck has to stop somewhere, and the guy with the HC in front of his name is usually where the buck stops.
Yeah. And you kind of, while you were talking there, walked right into my next question, because you got the regular guys at the top of the points column. But who would you say is not putting up the numbers they should be? Who's the dead weight on the team right now?
Well, yeah, how long do you have?
Well, we've already mentioned the 5 guys that are being outscored by a goaltender.
yeah. Gosh,
if you're the coach or GM and you got to get rid of one player right now, who is it?
Oh man, I mean, I could go with the easy one and say Jeff Carter.